Another day, another downturn in China-US relations. Beijing has now accused Washington of malicious slander. The US alleging China's consulate in Houston has been stealing trade secrets. An American diplomat claims the outpost is the epicenter of a spy operation, which is why the Trump administration wants to shut it down.
美方称中国驻休斯敦总领馆从事与身份不符的活动，这完全是恶意的污蔑。美方要求中方关闭驻休斯敦总领馆，严重违反国际法和国际关系基本原则，严重违反中美领事条约的有关规定，严重破坏中美关系。这是在拆中美两国人民友好的桥梁。
Well, now it looks like the US consulate in Chengdu could be a target for Chinese retaliation. Lynette Lim tells us more.
Beijing has not given any details on how it will retaliate, but it will likely want to respond in a proportional manner. One thing we've seen in Beijing's approach to the US is that it rarely wants to be the one that escalates matters. So, shutting down a US consulate would be a proportional response. Anything more, anything stronger would be a provocation. There's speculation that the US consulate in Chengdu is a target. This is a strategically important consulate covering Sichuan, Yunnan, Guizhou, Chongqing, and the sensitive region of Tibet. It's the gateway to the western interior of China and a key part of President Xi Jinping's Belt and Road plans. Previously, reports have indicated that it could be the Wuhan consulate that would be shut. But China watchers have said that choosing Wuhan would let the US off too lightly. This is because many of the officials in that consulate had reportedly evacuated at the height of the coronavirus outbreak, and the Wuhan consulate is effectively not functional at the moment. But the question is why now? The US says this is because engagement with China has failed over the last 30 years, and that this administration, the Trump administration, is the only one so far that has the will to take action to counter China. Meanwhile, the Chinese position is that there's simply a punching bag, a gambit in President Donald Trump's re-election bid. The Chinese have repeatedly emphasized that they want to avoid confrontation, but they will not shy away from a fight if the US keeps coming at them. And we've seen plenty of that so far in the form of sanctions, tariffs, to other visa and trade restrictions. Lynette Lim, CNA, Shanghai.
Simon Marks joins us in Washington, D.C. now. Simon, reports of an equal tit-for-tat response from China. Any word from the White House on Beijing closing American consulates on the mainland?
No, I mean, people close to the White House, including Republican senators on Capitol Hill, say that the Trump administration has presumed that there would be retaliation for this. So certainly it's widely expected. It's interesting that there's talk of hitting the US mission in Chengdu as opposed to Wuhan. There would be an argument for going after the consulate in Wuhan because it is the sister consulate to the Chinese mission in Houston. But also, were the Chinese to shut down the US operation in Wuhan, in a sense that would be a gift for President Donald Trump, who would then be able to argue on the campaign trail that China was deliberately trying to close off the city where COVID-19 began to any American diplomats that remain there or may have been stationed in the building. So you can understand why that is, as Lynette was saying there, a complicated decision for China to reach. But this is now a back and forth game of increasingly angry tennis between Washington, D.C. and Beijing. And certainly the expectation here is that the Chinese are not just going to threaten retaliation for the shutdown in Houston, they're going to take it.
Simon, let's talk about what's behind all of this, because the Trump administration is accusing China's consulate there in Houston of spying. They say this is after years of intelligence gathering, but it's an allegation Beijing, completely denies. So have US officials presented any evidence of this, or is this all about just countering China's moves?
Well, I think it's fair to say, Dawn, that they've presented a narrative as opposed to evidence, but they have said that there are several reasons that played into this decision, including the fact that at one point the head of the Chinese consulate in Houston showed up at the airport in the city using false identification documents in a bid to spirit a Chinese national onto an aeroplane. They also, in a document that was issued last night by the FBI, say that the consulate was making ongoing attempts illegally to transfer medical research and other sensitive information from institutions in the Houston area. Remember that Houston is a big biotech hub in the southwest of the United States. They also say that the consulate was engaged in talent recruitment, trying to persuade more than 50 researchers, professionals and academics in the Houston area to turn over information that they had gathered to Chinese institutions. Finally, they accused the consulate of trying to coerce the movement of some Chinese nationals wanted in China back to China. So the argument being used that there was a danger to some of those Chinese nationals in the Houston area that was posed by the intelligence gathering and espionage operations that the US government says was emanating from the building. China, of course, rejects all of these assertions, but that FBI document and that data is designed to provide some muscle behind the sudden decision that the State Department took to order the consulate's closure.
The plot thickens, Simon. The plot just continues to thicken. Thank you very much for that, Simon Marks, there in Washington, D.C.